Welcome to a brand new season of the John freaking Muir Pod. This season, we are going to continue to talk about gear, trail life, and adventures in all their forms and varieties. And hey, if you are enjoying the podcast, take just a minute and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're not enjoying the pod, well, just go ahead and keep that to yourself. All right, I'm very excited about our guest for Season 2, Episode 1. He was named one of the 2020 Outsiders of the Year by Outside Magazine, in part for winning the Quarantine Backyard Ultra Race, which we'll be talking about today. But that is just a minor detail on his endurance athletics resume. He has run lots and lots of marathons and ultra marathons. He's set FKTs on a number of trails, and he's run 7 marathons on 7 continents in 7 days, twice. Welcome to the John freaking Muir Pod, Michael Wardian.
Hey man, it's so good to be on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You know, I checked my mailbox right before dinner this evening, and lo and behold, there is the latest issue of Outside Magazine. And not only are you in the magazine, you're on the front cover. Pretty impressive.
Thanks. Well, I'm sharing the front cover with a bunch of other awesome people, but thank you very much. Yeah, it's a real honor to be to be included. There's a very high caliber of people. I think my wife and kids' favorite is, of course, the dog in the lower left-hand corner. So they're quite funny, and I think it's Mabel and Olive. And if you haven't checked them out yet, I highly recommend stopping this now and going and checking them out, and then coming back to the podcast, because it will make your day better for sure.
Okay, we will pause right now. Go hit the pause button and go check out Mabel and Olive, and then come back to us. We'll wait for you. Go ahead.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, welcome back. So one of the new features we're going to try this season is kind of the must-bring gear review. So I know your world centers a lot around running, endurance events. What is your must-bring piece of gear and why? And is there a particular brand of that gear that you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. Like, I'm pretty lucky to have a bunch of sponsors, so I feel like there's a ton of different answers to this question. I'd say, you need shoes for what we do. So I work with Hoka One One, and having a nice pair of, for me, it's the Evo Mafati. It's their kind of, for me, it's like a Goldilocks shoe. It kind of does everything. So that's kind of like the epitome of what I'm going to need on the trail. And then, if I am lucky enough to, have something else, like I love having, I use some ComproSport calf sleeves. I feel like those really help, especially in trail running, for keeping my legs nice and snug, but also, it's just like a nice barrier for like getting thrashed on like your calves. So it's one of those things. My buddy in New Zealand, they go on these things called tramps, which is basically just like it's a hike. But like one of his things, like every time he comes back from a long backpacking trip, he always has never ever. And so like one of the things is he's like, never ever wear short socks. And like I took that to heart when he told me that. And I feel like that's something that I always try to do, is I usually have my ComproSport calf sleeves. And then you said one thing, but like I'm kind of going through like all my kit, but also like I use Nathan hydration products. So like I always, even when I walk the dogs, I take my vest with me, and I have like poop bags in one side and like the leashes in the other side. But every time I'm on a trail, I have a sack on, so I can have some food and snacks and an emergency blanket and all that kind of crap.
Fantastic. And I love the whole concept of the never evers. That might be a new tradition on the podcast here as well.
Yeah, it's super funny. It's my buddy, his name's Carrie. He's a super funny guy, and he's taught me a lot over the years.
All right. Hey, another regular feature we have on the pod is this thing called the Pro Tip Insight of the Week. And that comes at the end of the episode. And what'll happen is I will turn to you towards the end of the episode, and I'll say, hey, Michael, what is your pro tip insight of the week for our listeners? And what is something that some kind of bit of advice, some insight, a little tip that is going to help make their next adventure that much more epic. So don't be surprised when I turn to you and ask you that question at the end.
Cool, man. I'll be ready.
Okay, very good. So we have a lot to talk about today, and I'm really excited about this interview. So can we start with maybe just some of the background on you, kind of growing up? Where'd you grow up? I know you're on the East Coast now. Did you grow up on the East Coast? What was your family like growing up? And what do you do for a career? And what are your obsessions and interests?
Yeah, man, I can give you the whole rundown. So I guess we should start. I'm based in Arlington, Virginia, which is about 10 kilometers from the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. I'm a professional marathon and ultra marathon runner, but I was not a runner growing up. I played a sport called lacrosse, where you kind of run around and hit people and throw a ball into a net. And yeah, I played that from when I was like 8 years old all the way until I was like a senior or a junior at Michigan State University. So I played at a pretty high level, Division I lacrosse. That was kind of my life.
Hey, you run around in lacrosse. You run around and hit people with sticks. With this, you batter each other pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great sport. I still am super passionate about it. I love watching it. I always kind of throw out there that I want to get back into playing, even in my 40s. Like, I think it'd be fun to play in like a, over 40 league or something, or even like just a regular men's league and get out there and run around. And so I stopped playing to basically, have a senior year without the grind of a Division I program where you're, training 4 or 5 hours a day. Had like the most incredible senior year. Got to go on spring break, which was kind of one of the reasons that I decided not to play lacrosse. I decided I wanted to go to Key West rather than Baltimore for spring break, and it worked out to be one of the best decisions I had made. And I was also a fraternity boy, so I took advantage of that part of Michigan State. And then I was in a honors program there called the James Madison program. So I was studying international relations. And when I graduated from Michigan State, I took a job as a secretary at an international ship brokerage based in Alexandria, Virginia. And I've been at that same job for 24 years now. And I graduated from secretary to broker to now, just this year, I became a partner and owner of the business. So it's been pretty awesome to, have stayed with the same company for that amount of time and worked my way up from the very bottom to, one of the principals in the company.
That's fantastic. I have a couple of follow-up questions. Number one, which fraternity? Do you want to give a shout out to your fraternity brothers out there?
Heck yeah, man. I was in a fraternity called Pi Kappa Alpha at Michigan State. They are known as the Pikes. I feel like they might have gotten kicked off campus from what I understand, but it's been, a long time since I've been there. We were good boys, but, I think it may have gotten a little rowdy. And then I didn't give you much about my background growing up.
Well, hang on before you go further. Another follow-up question is, what is a ship broker? What kind of business is that?
Yeah. So international ship broker. So I work with some U.S. flag, and foreign flag. So U.S. flag are ships that are registered in the United States, and then foreign flag are basically anywhere else in the world. And I work with those companies sending humanitarian food aid cargo all over the world. So nobody really still knows what that means when I say that. But if you ever saw a movie, there was a movie called Captain Phillips a couple of years ago with Tom Hanks. There was a big ship on there called the Maersk Alabama. and that was one of my vessels. So like I was the person who helped contract some of the cargo that was on that ship. So it was actually quite unfortunate and quite a bit of work when the Somali pirates actually hijacked the vessel. So that's like if your audience is familiar with transportation, it's basically I'm in transportation. I set up and coordinate shipments of humanitarian food aid going to places. Like if you've ever seen, like there's just this year, actually, one of the partners we work with, a private voluntary relief organization called the World Food Program, just won the Nobel Peace Prize for the work that they do in helping with humanitarian crisis. So those are the type of people we work with, like the World Food Program, World Vision, Catholic Relief Services, Food for the Hungry, Save the Children. So those type of private voluntary relief organizations that are doing kind of this really incredible work all around the world. And we're helping through the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the U.S. Agency for International Development to facilitate the movement of those cargoes from U.S. farmers to places all over the world.
That is really impressive. And so many of the folks that I talk to on this podcast are involved with a variety of philanthropic and humanitarian causes and are just doing incredible things out there. I'm really pleased to hear about your work in that field as well. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's definitely, I'm just a small cog in the wheel for sure. So a lot of people are doing great work, and we're representing the owners of the vessels, and so we're definitely for-profit company, but like we are helping facilitate a lot of the missions that are being set up and organized by these people around the world. So it's pretty awesome. And what I love about it is, you deal with people all over the world. So we have clients in Singapore and Denmark and, all over Africa and Europe, and the chance to, to work with those people and then people in the United States is really kind of what I'm interested in. And then, kind of tying that into, my running and getting a chance to explore the world in that way is a great way to, be engaged.
Right. I cut you off. You're going to tell us a little bit more about your family.
Yeah, definitely. So, I have two siblings. I have a younger brother who's 2 years younger, and then a baby sister who's now she's not so little anymore, but she's 8 years younger. So, it's kind of a big gap between my brother and I, and then our little sister. And what's been so neat is to see them kind of grow and each have their own amazing talents, and the opportunity to like run with them has been incredible. I got into running, and then my brother got into running, and then my sister kind of picked it up, and we've been able to kind of explore the world through my running, and then also like now through what they're doing. So that's been really cool to see.
Nice. Now, you said that you were a lacrosse player and you didn't grow up to be, you didn't, when you grew up, you were not a runner when you were younger. How did you get into endurance running and marathons and ultras?
Yeah, it's actually a story I've told a few times, but it's pretty, I have a pretty seminal moment. I was, as I said, I was in the Pi Kappa Alpha fraternity, and my buddy Vince Voisin took me home one year for Easter, and his mom had just finished the Boston Marathon, and her name is Vicky Voisin, and she had just finished, and we were having Easter dinner, and she pulled out her like little unicorn medal and her like crinkly space blanket she had from the race, and it was the first time that I had ever met a real person that had run a marathon, like not somebody you see on TV that looks like a runner, but like just a normal, like she's super fit, but like just she looked like it was my friend's mom, and it was like, oh, this is like completely something that's possible for regular people. And I was like, I'm going to do a marathon. And I remember like we were sitting at, Easter dinner, and I told his parents I was going to run a marathon, and his mom was like the coolest lady. She totally just was like, how can I help you? And she sent me a packet, and it was basically like how to run your first marathon packet. And I still have it, actually. It's pretty funny, but it was just like I coach people now for many years I have, and like it's still a good program, but it was just like she took something in a book and just put it on the photocopier and then sent it to me, and I just did whatever it told me. If it said run 6 miles on Tuesday, I'd run 6 miles on Tuesday, and if it said run 8 miles and there was a snowstorm in Michigan, I was going to run 8 miles. And I did that, and I didn't realize you actually had to qualify for the Boston Marathon, because I wasn't going to do any marathon. I was going to do the Boston Marathon. And so when I sent them, my self-addressed stamped envelope saying like, hey, I want to run your marathon, they said like, what's your qualifying time? And I was like, I don't have a qualifying time. And so then I figured out I had to run another marathon. So I signed up for the Marine Corps Marathon in 1996. Just hoping to run fast enough to qualify for Boston. And I figured the good thing about doing the Marine Corps Marathon was I just graduated from college, and it wasn't very far from my house. It was, I was staying with my parents, I think in Oakton at that time, which is maybe 10 miles from the starting line. And so I figured if, I dropped out or got sick or, didn't make it, that they could just pick me up and it wouldn't be far to get home. And I qualified for Boston. I ran, I think 3:06 or 3:08, and I had to run 3 hours and 10 minutes, and qualified for Boston, sent in my application, and I figured, oh, sweet, I'll be done, after I run Boston, goal accomplished. And
Check that
little
off
did
the
I
list
know
and you'll
that,
be done.
yeah, exactly. Little did I know that I would be absolutely smitten by the atmosphere of Boston, and also Marine Corps. Like it was just, it was like, wow, this is really cool. I feel like this is something I really enjoy. And I decided to try to break 3 hours for the marathon, because I heard from some people like, that would be a really good, lifetime achievement. And so I ran 2 hours and 54 minutes at Boston, and it was my first sub-3 and my second marathon. And and then I kind of thought I was like, I thought I was really fast and good. And so I went in the local running store and called Pacers, and I was like, hey, I'm really fast. Like, can I get on your like racing team? And of course, like they were like, no, you're not really fast. you're not that good at all. But like they were kind and said like, hey, we have track workouts on Tuesday nights. Why don't you come to the track and you can start working with the group, and like if you get faster, we'll put you on the team. And I was like, okay, fine. And I just started showing up at the practices, and within 6 months, like I was like, hey, I feel like I could be on the team now. And I started out in the slowest group and worked up to the next fastest. And eventually I heard about a race that all the guys from the team were going to. They didn't invite me, but I just overheard them talking about it. It was called the Wawa 10 miler. So I showed up at the race with my dad, and I told him I was going to make the team, and he was like, yeah, whatever, but like, okay. And so the race started, and I was like not with the guys in the lead. And then as the race got longer, like I caught like one of the guys, and I caught another one of the guys, and I think by the end I was like second or third, and they were finished, and I crossed the line. And my friend Jeff Van Horn, I think maybe ended up winning the race. And it's funny because he owns like a store now, and I've gone and done some talks for him, and he's like, I think we like asked you on the team then. And I was like, yeah, that was my whole goal. Like, I just wanted to be on the team. And he's like, yeah, you can be on the team. And I was like, okay, cool, thanks. Like, but it was, kind of the first team I qualified for. And from there, I just wanted to be the best on the team. And I actually ran for Pacers for, I think until 2003 or so. And then eventually I started picking up, some bigger sponsors, Marathon Guide. And then, from there, I was doing like lots and lots of marathons. I ran in 1997 when I ran Boston. I ran Chicago, Marine Corps, and New York City because I figured I'd just do all the biggest races, um, and then I'd be done. And of course, like each one, I got better and faster. And then I heard about a race called the JFK 50 miler, and I just didn't believe them when they told me that you could actually run that far. I just like straight up was just like, no, that's not true. And they're like, oh yeah, no, you can. And I was like, it was a guy named Scotty Mills, who is the race director for the San Diego 100 miler and a bunch of races out in that part of the world. And he used to own a store here in I think Springfield called Fleet Feet. And yeah, I just didn't believe them. And so then I actually thought I was going to win the race because I figured if you just take your marathon time and you just multiply it by 2, like that's what time you'll run for 50 miles, not realizing that you have to eat and like do all the things that come with running 50 miles. And so, yeah, I ran the JFK 50 miler and I finished, but I did not win. I ran like well over the winners. And it's actually funny. A guy named Howard Nippert won the year that I did my first JFK, and he and I shared running on the 100K world team together for a bunch of years. And we're on the U.S. Ultra Mountain Trail Committee now. And but I still remember him going out and running so fast and thinking like, there's no way that that guy can hold the pace for that long. And of course he did. And then, you know, in 2007, I actually ended up winning the race and almost breaking the course record that he had set. And then the following year I did break the course record, but I got second to another guy that had run faster by like 2 minutes.
So Michael,
yeah.
when you set the record for the 50 miler, the JFK, what mile pace did you have?
I think it was a little over 6 minutes per mile for 50 miles.
That is insanity. I'm gonna repeat back to you what you said earlier. That's impossible. There's no way. That's nuts.
Yeah, it was actually funny because it was only like a week or so after the 2007 Olympic trials in New York City, and you know, I was feeling pretty fit, and I hadn't run a 50 miler in a while, and I was really lucky. I'm friends with the race director, a guy named Mike Spindler, and he was like, "Hey man, no pressure, but if you want to come to the race, you know, it's a great way to get on the 100K world team." And you know, my goal was to try to, you know, make the Olympic team for the marathon, and you know, I didn't make it. I did lead the trials for 10 kilometers in 2007 in New York, and I feel like that was probably one of my highlights in my career, is like being in front of like Ryan Hall and Meb and all these like famous Olympians. You know, it was short lived, but you know, it was at one point I was like, oh dude, I'm going to the Olympics. This is it, man. This is awesome. And then of course, like, they passed me and I didn't I didn't go, but it was super fun to, you know, be out there for a little bit.
No, I've run a marathon 3 times and nowhere near your times, but I finished all 3 and felt pretty good about myself. And I know that there is, you know, so there's some caloric intake that needs to occur in a marathon so you don't bonk and hit the wall and just run out of energy. How many calories do you have to consume running 50 miles and doing 6-minute miles? And how does that take place?
Yeah, it's actually not as much as you think. So like a lot of people say like 300 calories an hour. For 50 miles, I kind of what I do for a marathon, which is basically, I work with GU. So it's like 1 GU every 4 miles for a marathon.
Okay.
For a 50 miler, I might do a little bit more, but it's, so, you know, if you're running 6-minute pace, that's like every 25 minutes or so. So it's like 200 calories an hour plus whatever you're drinking. Most of the time I just drink water or some kind of like caloric mix. So yeah, if you can get into, usually that keeps you from like getting a little bit of bad stomach. But you're not out there for that long, really. I mean, it sounds like a long time until you've run like 24 hours or 48 hours or, you know, 62 hours. But you know, you are moving pretty fast. And so like, I feel like for 50 miles, unless it's, JFK is not a super hilly mountainous race. Like if you're in a really mountainous race or like have a lot of altitude or something, you may have to change up the nutrition a bit. But if it's pretty flat or, lower elevation and not kind of as extreme, like the gels work really well, or the goos work really well for me.
Got it. And from your comments right there, I'm assuming that the JFK 50 is not your longest race that you've run. We've talked to some folks on the pod that have told us about the Moab 200 or 200,
Yeah.
240, the Moab 240 and the Bigfoot trail race. Have you
Yeah.
competed in either of those, or what's been your longest distance race that you've competed in?
I've done a couple of longer races. I did a race that was kind of pretty challenging in China called the Ultra Gobi. It was 400 kilometers, which is
It's
about 240 miles.
Yeah.
About, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I think that's right. And then that one was a little interesting because it was self-sufficient, and then you had little checkpoints or like life stations, but it was also self-navigation. So you kind of just had like a compass thing you had to hold, and you had to just follow this like line. And of course there was not a topo map or anything. So you just like run into mountains and like be like, oh sweet, now I have to go like 5 miles out of the way to go around this thing, or whatever. Like it was pretty challenging. But the longest race, it was actually this year when I did the Quarantine Backyard Ultra. I did 262 miles in 63 hours. So that race is a little interesting for people in your audience that don't know. You basically run 4.167 miles every hour on the hour until everyone continues to drop out, until there's just one person left. And so it's a pretty cool race because you don't have to really go super fast, but you have to go kind of fast enough where you can recover a little bit to be able to get started again. And every hour you have to start moving. So every hour on the hour you have to run the 4 miles until you can't do it anymore.
Right. And it was something like 4.167 miles, something like that.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. 4.167 miles. So every 24 hours you go 100 miles. So every 24 hours
I was going to ask why that unique number.
Yeah. So basically every 24 hours you do 100 miles.
Okay. And they called it the Backyard Ultra. I was planning on getting this to a little bit later, but this is fine. We can cover it right now because it's just fascinating. They called it the Quarantine Backyard Ultra. Does that mean that you literally ran it in your backyard? You just did laps around your backyard, or is this in your community? You kind of just ran a route in your community?
Yeah. So it's actually named after a guy named Lazarus Lake, who's the for people in your audience that don't know, he's the founder of a race called the Barkleys Marathons. It's kind of this kind of ridiculous race I've done a couple of times in Tennessee, where you kind of run around in the woods and they don't tell you what the course is, and you have to like navigate, and it's always bad weather and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wait a second.
But
wait
it
a
is
second,
actually
Michael.
in his backyard.
Hang on 1 second, because as my audience knows, I am obsessed with the Barkley Marathons. I've been trying to get somebody on the pod who has run the Barkley, and lo and behold, here you are. So thank you very much. Congratulations. I would love it if we could take a side trip. Maybe the next segment we could take a side trip down the Barkley Marathon path and just have you share a little bit of your experience in that, because that is, I am hooked and obsessed on the Barkley Marathons.
Yeah, I'm happy to let you know as much as I can, for sure. Yeah, it's a pretty incredible experience. Like, it's a culture around it. There's like a whole community around it. It's well deserved. It's a really cool, unique challenge, and it's a opportunity for growth, which is what I love. Right? I mean, it's a chance to evolve as a person and an athlete, and it challenges you on a lot of different levels. And yeah, it's one of those things where, and it's very equitable. I mean, if you put the time and energy in, like, it's something that is just at the point of being achievable, and for most people it's unachievable. So it's pretty awesome. It's a really great yeah, it's a really great event, and it's well designed, and it's very challenging. But back to the quarantine, the founder of the Barkleys Marathon, he came up with the concept of running, the 4.67 miles, and it is literally around his backyard in Tennessee. So like, I think where he takes his dogs for a walk through the woods, and so yeah, you basically run around his backyard, and that's how it started. The quarantine backyard ultra was April 4th of this year, so like kind of at the beginning of quarantine, and it was a race that we were doing all virtually. So we had to sign into Zoom every hour on the hour and just show that we were there. And I did it around a 0.4 mile loop. So I ran 262 miles on a 0.4 mile loop around a block of my neighborhood. So yeah, I just ran the same loop for 3 days, basically.
How many loops is that?
It was thousands of loops. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Well, I don't know. It was 262.
He's got the calculator out. He's gonna.
I don't know. No, it wasn't. I'm sorry. It was 655 loops, I guess.
655 loops. I guess the good thing was you're always close to your bathroom.
Yes, that was good for sure. The only problem is, like, I live a little bit down a hill, and so like that was not as good. But yes, that was nice. And also for the first day, like, I kind of was less supported, but then my wife saw like how much help I needed, and she like rallied the troops, and the whole neighborhood came out and supported me. It was really incredible. It really brought us together, which was cool.
Fantastic. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back from the break, we're going to get a little more depth into the Barkley Marathons and hear what Michael has to share with us on that. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. And welcome back. We're talking with Michael Wardian, and we're going to get a little bit into the Barkley Marathons. I've watched a couple of documentaries that really whet my appetite on this subject. And to give you some insight into the Barkley Marathons, let me just tell you the names of the two documentaries that I've watched. The first one was The Race That Eats Its Young, and the second one was Where Dreams Go to Die. So that should tell you a little bit about what the Barkley Marathons is all about. And as soon as you said Lazarus Lake, when we were talking about the backyard ultra, I recognize that name. He is the creator of the Barkleys, and I've been fascinated ever since I saw that first documentary. So I'm glad to. I'm really excited to have somebody on who's gone through the application process, who was accepted into the race, and had a chance to see that course and experience it firsthand. I'd love to hear all about your Barkley Marathon experiences, Michael.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to share. Yeah, so I did the race, I think, in maybe 17 and 18, or 16 and 17. And yeah, it's kind of there's no application per se. Like, you have to find somebody that's willing to kind of share how it works with you, and then you have to apply at a certain time on a certain date, in a certain way, and
that sounds pretty secretive.
Yeah, it's totally yeah, it's totally this whole thing. It's like it's a whole procedure, I guess. And then, if you are accepted, you get a letter of condolence saying like, hey, I'm sorry you made it. and then you don't know really when the race is going to start, you know, kind of when it usually starts, but then so you just kind of have to be ready for it to start. And then once you get there, it can start anywhere between Friday and Saturday usually, but you don't really know. So like you just have to be ready to start, and then you got to know that you're going to be running. And so just for your audience that doesn't know, so it's 5 20-mile loops around a park in Tennessee called Frozen Head State Park. And it's not like the Great Smoky Mountains or like Arcadia or anything else. It's like a state park by your house that, you know, you would just go to on the regular. Like I go to a park around here called Great Falls and Windy Run State like park by my house, or like it's not even as big as like Shenandoah National Park, which is like by my house, and it's a big park like where the Appalachian Trail goes through it. This is just an awesome little place in the country, and it's famous for a prison there. I think it's Bushy Mount Prison or something like that. And the race basically started, and you know, if your audience wants to, you know, both those documentaries that you reference are pretty awesome. They do a good job of explaining the race. But the race started because Lazarus Lake, he was kind of an ultra runner, and he was kind of joking with his friend about this guy that escaped, and he only made it like a mile in the woods, and he's like, I can make it 100 miles in 24 hours or something. Or in 60 hours. The guy was out for 60 hours and made it like 2 miles or something. And he was like, I could make it 100 miles. And so then he came up with a race in the woods where this guy was trying to escape from prison. And so the race kind of just goes around the park. And the thing that makes it unique is, you know, once you get there, you don't know when it's going to start. The weather is usually crappy. It's not marked, so you get a map where these little books are in the woods, and you know, there's
Tell us about
anywhere,
those books.
you know,
What is the purpose
to
of those books out in the woods?
yeah, I was going to get to that. So yeah, so you get a map, and then you have to transpose the map onto your map of the park, and then once you figure out when the race is going to start, you head off into the woods, and you try to find these books. And the books are basically like checkpoints. So you get a bib, and you know, your bib might be 39 and mine might be 52. And so when you get to the book, when you find it under a tree or under a log, or you know, buried under the 7th flagstone from the highest point next to the Laurel of the Valley, you open the book and you tear out the page that has your number. So, you know, mine might be 52. So I tear out page 52. And that's how you show Laz when you get back to the big yellow gate, which is the start and finish of each loop, that you went to all the books. And so you have 12 hours to do one loop, and you have to do all 5 loops in less than 60 hours. And it sounds super easy to go 20 miles in 12 hours. Like you're barely going like 2 miles an hour, right? Like it shouldn't be hard at all. But you're also dealing with, like, I think each loop is more like 30 miles, and it has like almost 10,000 feet of elevation gain each loop. So it's pretty, like, it just doing one loop, it like, I still haven't done a single loop in the time limit, but like just doing one loop, I was like, wow, that was legit. Even if it was like marked and you're not like backtracking and actually doing more because you're not like going the right way, or you're off course, or you know, someone thinks they know where the book is and they actually don't know where the book is. So there's a lot of wasted time. And then once you leave the campground where the race starts, there's no aid. So you have to carry all the food you're going to use for 12 hours and water. And there's like 2 water stops along the course. So like, yeah, it's basically like self-sufficiency with route finding, with like just being a badass like run in general.
Yeah, as you started to describe it, just being in a state park, and just like one near you. I mean, that state park though is no joke. I mean, you talked about the elevation gain. You talked about the woods. I mean, it looks treacherous. I think the race has only had 13 or 14 finishers since its inception, which is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I think over 30 years they've had, I think 15 people finish the race, and sometimes it's the same person, right? So it's like, I don't know if they've had 15 different people. Like, I think it might be more like 10 or 12 actually different people. Some people have finished it multiple times. Yeah, it's legit tough. And actually, what I didn't say and I should have said is it's not on the trails either. So it's off trail. So like you're like bombing down like waterfalls and like jumping over like ravines and like, yeah, there's like some of it is on the trails, but most of it's like off trail. So it's also like Blair Witch Project. Like if people have ever seen that movie, it's like you're
Yes.
just like going around and you're like, oh, that looks like the tree I was looking for, but it's really the tree you saw like 10 minutes ago because you're going the wrong way. And
Ouch.
then everything is like has a unique name that only applies to the race. So, it'll be like go to, I don't know, Weeping Willow. And like, if you don't know what a Weeping Willow is, then you have no idea where you're supposed to go. So like, it reminds me of like pledging a fraternity. It's like, you have no idea what's going on when you first get there. And then the more you're there, you're like, oh, I kind of see what those things mean. And then you get a feel for actually what you need to do. And then you actually have to have the skills to be able to do that. So yeah, it's a bit tricky, but also awesome.
So talk about there's some unusual place names on the trail. One of the ones that looked really treacherous was this place called Rat Jaw. Did you experience Rat Jaw?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah, so there's some very famous parts of the route. Probably the most famous, and it's most famous probably because it's the one that they actually let media go to. But it's this really steep climb up like a power line, and it looks steep in the videos and stuff, but in real life it's way steeper. Like I don't know if you ever you ever like take a picture and you're like, that doesn't look steep at all. Or like when it does look steep and you're like, oh shit, that's actually really steep. That's what that climb is like. And then what makes it tricky too is like it's got briars all over it, and the briars aren't as bad when we do the race or when I've done the race in March, but like they call it rat jaw because like you go by and it like snaps you and bites, like takes chunks out of your skin while you're going up the climb. But again, like both times I did it, the thorns weren't so bad, but most of the time they are bad. So like I didn't get the full experience, which that's good probably like but it was, yeah, it can be kind of a nasty climb, and especially if it's wet and slippy, like you just kind of slide down, and it's definitely a big grunt up that hill.
Well, if you didn't get the worst of it, then you've got to go back. You've got to get the full experience, Michael.
Yeah, well, I did get hypothermic and end up in a cave for a couple of hours trying to get warm, and then had to like a 2.5 hour hike back to quit. So yeah, I got a pretty good experience there, for sure. Like, but yeah, I'd like to try to get around, and I'd like to get an official loop at some point, and the goal would to be making around enough times to get a finish.
Yeah, you
But
referred
again,
to
it's
it.
kind of like it's on the edge of what like the very best people are doing, and I have a lot of work to get there.
You mentioned a little bit earlier that it's supposed to be 5 20-mile loops. It's the same loop. You go different directions depending on which I think it alternates, right? You go clockwise and counterclockwise until you get to the
It
last one.
depends. he changes it up actually. So it depends. So most of the time you're right. You go one direction and then the other.
Mhm.
I think the last time I did it, he had us go 2, 2, 1, 1, and then if you made it to the last one, you get to choose. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of at his fancy. And what's so weird about that is like you're like, oh, it should be easy if you just turn around, but it's actually way harder if you go one way and then you go back the other way, because it's also, if you think about it, you have 12 hours. So if you do it in the day, then the next time you're doing it is at night, and then the next time you're doing it is at day, and you're just like, I don't know where I am right now and what this looks like, because everything looks different at night. So yeah, and
That's
it's kind
just
of
what I
hard.
was
It
gonna
makes it
say.
harder to
Is
navigate.
That's just what I was gonna say. It seems very cruel that he does that, because you're exactly right. You're running one direction in the day, and then you're running the same loop, right? But you're doing it now the other direction at night, and then it just compounds the navigation problems having to do that. That's just wild.
Well, and not just that, like you just get tired and you start to make more mistakes. And if you the race is generous in that, if you're fit and you're ready and you have the ability to move pretty fast on that terrain, like you have time to make a couple mistakes. But if you make too many mistakes, you just don't have enough time. And so that's, where most people get into trouble is you make a couple mistakes. Okay, cool. But then you're not moving fast enough, or you're moving, like I was moving so fast that I would just miss stuff. And so like, but I wasn't moving as fast as the really fast guys, so I was in this like weird zone where I was like too fast or too slow for the really good navigators and fast guys, but like too fast for the people that could navigate really well, but maybe didn't have the ability to move as fast. And so like, it just sucked because I'd get somewhere and I'd be like, I know the book is here somewhere. And then I wouldn't be able to find it for like 45 minutes or an hour. And then somebody that was moving a lot slower and using less energy to move would just come in and be like, oh, I know where it is, and just go over and grab it. And I'd be like, oh, crap, and like, so yeah, so it's like this really hard balance, because you need to move fast enough to make the cutoff. But if you get careless, you make too many mistakes. So yeah,
Right.
it's awesome though, because like if you keep going, you'll figure out where everything is, right? So like that's the trick too, is like the more you go and the more you explore the park and the more you work on your navigation and all the skills that you need, the better you get at it and the faster you can go. And so like that's what I love about it is, if you're willing to put the time and effort in and you have the ability, then you'll be able to move well.
Right. And I think you said earlier, and I was getting to it, that it's supposed to be 5 loops, and a loop is supposed to be 20 miles, but it's kind of a given that it's not 20 miles, that it's longer than 20 miles, closer to 30 miles possibly. How far did you get in each of your 2 races? How many miles of that loop do you think?
Well, the first time I did it, I got all the books, and so I did the entire loop, so I got the entire experience. The second time I did it, like I said, I got hypothermia, and there was like this crazy fog where you couldn't even see like your hand, and it was just super dangerous. And so like I ended up in a cave, like shivering and hypothermic, and was like, that's the other thing, they don't come get you. You don't like shoot up a flare, like nobody is going to ever come find you. And so like if you can't get yourself out, then yeah, you're just stuck. So you have to self extract. And so like I knew that I was at the point where I needed to go back, or else I was going to be in big trouble. So like I think that's what's cool too, is you have to really own up and know what your limitations are, and and act accordingly.
That's just insane. So you said you were there in 17 and 18, and I think the second documentary that I mentioned, Where Dreams Go to Die, that was the story of Gary Robbins and his attempt to finish the Barkleys
Yes, I was
in
there
2
that
separate
year.
years. And I
Yeah.
was going to ask, was that one of the years or both of the years that you were there?
Yeah, I was there the year Gary was there. after I, I got knocked out, I left before all the drama happened. So like I drove home to get back to work because, yeah, I had to work. But yeah, it's unfortunate. It sucked, man. I was really hoping that he was going to get it. He's a buddy of mine, and he's an incredible athlete, and for him to, get that far and not have it, end up the way that he wanted, that was pretty tragic.
Yeah, absolutely heartbreaking. I don't want to spoil the ending for anybody, but I guess you can guess from the title, how it turns out. But he is a very intense guy. He had a whole system of training that he put into place to conquer this race. And the race is just a badass race that, you're talking about, you were struggling on it. You're Outside Magazine called you perhaps the world's most prolific distance runner, and you struggled with it. So I can't imagine, it's obvious why there's only 15 finishers over the course of 30 years.
Yeah, it's definitely next level stuff. But I mean, it's achievable. So that's what's cool about it. A friend of mine named John Kelly has finished the race. He's just, he's got a dad. He's a dad. He owns his own business. He's got 3 kids. Like, he's an incredible athlete, but like, he's a normal guy and just does extraordinary things. So like, it's completely possible.
Well, I want to thank you for sharing your experiences with the Barkleys. I've longed to have somebody on here who was able to experience that firsthand and share that with us. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and I should say like it's a testament to the race too. Like Gary and the team that he has, Gary or Laz, he it's Laz Lake, but it's Gary Cantrell. It's the same person, right? So it's like he's got a couple different names, but like the race that he created and inspired so many people, like yourself, like it's got a following, and he's really been able to create a culture around it. And like once you're a part of that, like you're always a part of it. And so it's cool to like be able to participate in that, but also just kind of see the whole scene and everything that goes around about it. And it's pretty awesome. Like we didn't even say like some of the cool like quirks too. It's like the first time you go, you have to bring like a license plate from your home, like if you're foreign, your home country, or for us it's like a state license plate. And then bring them like cigarettes and like different kinds of soda, and like he always has like something that he needs. Like he got one year he asked for like plaid shirts. He's got like 1 million plaid shirts. He like wanted these like kind of socks that you can only find like that were out of stock everywhere, and I don't know. So like there's a whole like thing around it, and it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, the race really has a cult following, and I meant to ask you, what was the atmosphere like at that state park during the race? I mean, were there a lot of people assembled to watch the race or to support people who were in the race? What was kind of the energy there?
Actually, no. I mean, he actually keeps it pretty low key. So it's, I think you can bring a couple, like, I think now it's maybe only 1 or 2 people to help you the entire time. And just because it is like a small area, and he wants to be respectful for the other people in the park. And so like, it's crazy. It's like one of the most popular, biggest races in the world, but it's got a feel of like just a bunch of people going out and bashing around in the woods. And so like, I think he wants to keep it that way. And it's kind of like just a bunch of people hanging out and really just kind of pushing their limits. And so it's pretty awesome. Like it's, everyone's camping together, everyone's eating together, everyone's watching the runners come around, and everyone's helping everyone else out. And it's a community, and of people that want to see what their limits are. And you're definitely gonna find out. And it may not be where you think it is, but you will learn something about yourself. I can promise you that.
And what did you learn about yourself?
I learned that I need to do way more work on navigation. I learned that I actually have the ability to take care of myself more than I thought I did. I learned that I am not as skilled at off-terrain, like ridiculous, like not seeing where you're putting your feet and just trusting that you're not going to hit a rock and end up careening down the side of a mountain and dying, as some other people. But I did realize like I can move pretty good, and that I need to be more mindful of stuff around me. And I learned that if I want to do the race, I need to really put the time and effort in. And so like, until I can do that, I want to give other people the opportunity to see what they learned. And, I know for me as an athlete, it was a really cool evolution. Like, it really spurred me to do a lot of these fastest known times and stuff like that, because I was like, hey, I can go 12 hours without seeing anyone. Like, that's pretty awesome. And, this year I did, probably one of the most exciting things I've ever done. I did like 110 miles completely solo. Like, I started at one side of Shenandoah National Park and didn't see anyone to crew me. Like, I took water and filtered water and, kind of like, just went out and had an adventure on my own. And that's something I probably never would have done had I not done Barkley.
And 110 miles across Shenandoah, how long did it take you?
It took me like 36 hours. It was crazy, man. I thought it'd be way less. But it takes a long time to like filter water, and my pack was so heavy. I was like chafed like within like 10 miles. So like it was a full on adventure. And then of course, like, I ran out of water at the end. Like, it was awesome though. Like, it was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Right there, you're verging on what a thru hiker experiences with the chafe and the filtering. And why is it taking so long? And so that is the FKT for that section of the Appalachian Trail, correct?
It's the self-supported FKT. So like, there's a faster supported one for sure. You could go way faster if you had people that were crewing you. Because there was a lot of opportunity to get aid, but like, when you're carrying it all yourself, like I did actually, so mine's not unsupported, mine's self-supported, because like I did go into some of the camp stores and buy some food. So yeah, that was that was something where I was like, oh, I got plenty of stuff, and then I was like, dude, I just want a soda so bad, so I just stopped and got one, and I was like, I don't care. Like, this tastes good.
Quite an accomplishment. Congratulations. And back to the Barkley
Yeah,
real quick. Back to the Barkley real quick. Do you anticipate doing that again?
Yeah, I think so. At some point, I'd like to try it again. Like, I think I want to really dedicate some serious training to it and give it a legit go. And I don't think it would be in the upcoming year. I think it'd be a couple of years from now. But I think the cool thing about that race is like, you don't have to move fast. You just have to move efficiently, and you have to be strong. And so like, I think it's a race where you can do that, at any age, really. Like, there's people out there that are, doing extremely well and kind of, on the edge of what's possible. And, that's something where, you just, if you can be a really efficient hiker, you can do super well at that race.
And if we look very carefully in the documentary Where Dreams Go to Die, can we spot you anywhere in the footage somewhere?
I feel like there might be a cameo of me at some point. Like, I think if like maybe at check-in or something, like there may be like a little shot of me.
All right, I'm gonna have to rewatch that. I'll be looking for you. So
Cool,
let's go back to your marathons and your ultras real quick. I wanted to ask how many marathons you've done since that first one in the Marine Corps marathon. How many marathons? What's your average time, and what's your best finish in a marathon?
So my number of marathons, I think it's over 250 or something ridiculous. So I usually run like 40 to 50 races a year. I think last year I ran like 18 marathons or something. You know, you get quite a bump up when you do like 7 in 7 days. So like that's kind of like a cheat code for doing it. And I actually last year I did 10 marathons in 10 days and set the world record for that. So like yeah, you get a kind of a bump in that. As far as my best finish, I've won a bunch of marathons. So like, you know, I haven't won like the Boston Marathon, but I've won like yeah, the Big Sur Marathon a couple times. I won the Kauai Marathon. I've won the Shamrock Marathon, I feel like. I won the National Marathon and became the Rock and Roll DC Marathon like 7 times. My best marathon time is 2 hours, 17 minutes, 49 seconds at the 2011 Grandma's Marathon.
Wow.
And my average time, I'd say when I was winning most of those marathons, was between 220 and 225, I'd say. So that, you know, that's kind of what I've been known for, is like I ran the Olympic trials in Houston in 2012 and 221, and then the next day ran the Houston Marathon in 231. And so like you know, I've done stuff like that. Or like I won the San Antonio Marathon and the next day won the Vegas Marathon. Or actually I didn't win Vegas, but I was trying to win both the marathons back to back on the same day. So like I won the marathon in San Antonio in the morning, and then that night I tried to win the marathon in Vegas, and I think I ended up like second or third or something. So yeah, it's cool to be able to recover pretty quick and be able to do these things, you know, kind of back to back and you know, at a pretty high level.
That is pure beast mode. Now, I know that you are married and you have a couple of kids, and in running these marathons, all these marathons, and there's training that goes on. I would imagine there's almost daily training that have to take place to stay in shape for these marathons. How do you balance the running, the training, the events, and family life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big question I get all the time. I mean, I think for me, I call it like invisible training, but you know, what I started doing was I started trying to figure out like ways to be super efficient. So I used to work downtown, so I would wake up and do a session in the morning of running, and then I would run to work and then do another session at lunch and then run or cycle home. And then, you know, once I got home, I'd just be with the kids. And so that's kind of like the way that I did a lot of my training, was like making a commute and doing it through, you know, somewhere I had to be anyhow. And so the other thing was, you know, to incorporate the training with the kids. So when the kids were little, I had a jog stroller, and I would put the kids in the jog stroller and take them out and run with them. So I just meet up with my normal training group and be like, hey, I'd have my kids with me, you know, keep it clean. And then we'd go for a run.
Fantastic. Great
You know, I ended
strategy.
up even set a world record with my son Pierce in the jog stroller. We ran 2 hours, 42 minutes and set a Guinness World Record. And then with Grant, my younger son, we ran almost 10 minutes faster and lost to another guy. So I ran 2 hours, 32 minutes and lost to a guy that ran like 2:31 at the Route 66 Marathon in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And actually, he won the race and I was second, both of us pushing jog strollers.
Wow. Incredible. Hey,
Yeah, it's crazy.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to get to a feat that I find pretty amazing, and that is the 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 continents. So stay tuned for that. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Talking to Michael Wardian. And one of the most incredible things that I saw in the Outside Magazine piece on you was the fact that you did 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents twice. And that just seems impossible because, continents are not necessarily that close to each other. There's a lot of travel time and logistics involved in getting from one continent to another. And then you factor in running a marathon on 7 consecutive days on seven different continents. How is that even possible?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I heard about this, it's called the World Marathon Challenge. I did it in 2017 and 2019, and it's something that was set up by a guy named Richard Donovan. He's a crazy Irish guy. I met him at the 2014 North Pole Marathon, but I'd actually met him before in 2010 at the 50K World Championships in Galway, Ireland. And it was like one of those people where you like meet him and you're like, I'm going to be friends with this guy. Like he was just cool and like he really got it. And he was like a runner and, we just stayed in touch. And so when I did the North Pole Marathon, I won that race and he said like, hey, I have this idea of running 7 marathons in 7 days on 7 continents. And I just did the same thing you did. I was like, that's kind of like when I heard that you could run 50 miles. I was like, you can't even get to all 7 continents. Like I was a traveler, up to that point. I'd been all over. And I was just like, I so want to do that. And he's like, yeah, it's like $50,000. And I was like, okay, I'll get back to you. And so like 3 years later, there was an opening to do the race and I signed up and luckily enough, he had a spot for me and I ended up doing it. But basically how it works is you fly to somewhere close to Antarctica. The first time I did it, we flew to Punta Arenas in Chile. So it's kind of like on the tip of Chile. And then we flew over to Antarctica and we stayed at a little camp for a couple of days until the weather looked good. And then we ran the marathon and then we flew back to Punta Arenas, ran another marathon, flew from there to Miami, ran a marathon, flew from there to Madrid, ran a marathon, flew from there to Morocco, ran a marathon, flew from there to Dubai, ran a marathon, and then we finished in Sydney, Australia. The second time I did it, we flew to Cape Town in South Africa, flew over to Antarctica, ran a marathon, flew back to Cape Town, ran a marathon, flew to Perth, Australia, ran a marathon, flew to Dubai, ran a marathon, flew to Madrid, ran a marathon, flew to Santiago, Chile, ran a marathon and finished in Miami. So that's basically how you do it. And both times we flew on a private jet. It's a different plane from wherever Cape Town or Punta Arenas to Antarctica. And then once you get back to Cape Town or Punta Arenas, we took kind of the same plane both times all around the world. And so it was pretty incredible experience. Like definitely one of my favorite things about running is the opportunity to kind of meet people. And when you're on a trip like that, you get a real chance to connect with the people that you're racing with and against. And each time it was around 50 runners and then probably about 5 or 10 staff that were kind of moving around, setting up the races for us. And each time we'd land, it was a very, very short course, like between 2 and 3 miles. And you just do that a couple times, 8 times, 9 times until you're done. And then get back on the plane as fast as you can and fly to the next place. And you just keep doing that. And you kind of have no idea what time it is and what day you're on and what continent you're on. But it's really special because they actually partner with like local running groups and committees in different places. So like in Australia, like they made us like a crazy, like, Aussie breakfast with like eggs and pancakes and bacon and like all this awesome stuff. And they had like signs up like saying like kangaroos 2K that way. You can't see you anymore. Oh, I lost you. You there?
Oh, there. I'm back. I don't know what happened. My computer just shut down. But
Oh,
we're
yeah.
still recording.
Anyhow, I
We're
was
still
talking
recording.
about.
So
Okay, maybe you got it. Yeah. Anyhow, I was just saying, yeah, you just move around a lot. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's like a once in a lifetime opportunity that I got to do twice in a lifetime. So I feel pretty fortunate to be, to be one of the only people that's got to do it a couple times.
fantastic. That's incredible. It's mind boggling. I was going to say you had to feel pretty loopy during those 7 days, and I wonder how much sleep you got.
I think the first time I got less than 10 hours, and the second time I think it was, yeah, like 12 hours. Like I'm not a great sleeper in general, and so like I kind of don't sleep uh, most of the time. And yeah, I think that's one of, kind of a thing that I've been trying to work on getting better at. But it's it can be a benefit in an event like that, or like the race, like the Quarantine Backyard Ultra, where other people start to really get a little bit loopy. I'm just like, oh, let's keep going then. That's cool.
All right. Hey, Michael, you know where we are right now?
We're we're near the end.
We're near the end. That's right.
Nice.
We're at the time of the episode where I turn to you and say, Michael, what is your pro tip insight of the week? What little tidbit of wisdom can you share with our listeners to make their next adventure that much more epic?
I think the pro epic tip that I can share is if um, if you have something you've been wanting to go do it, because you never know when your next opportunity is going to come. Or I suffered my first real substantial injury about 8 weeks ago. My goal was to run across the country, and a couple of weeks ago, I didn't know if I would ever be able to run again, and I wasn't able to get the chance to run across the country this year just because of everything going on. And I'm still hoping to do that next year. But if there's something like a trail that you've wanted to explore but you haven't done it, or you're waiting for the perfect time, don't go and do it now. Go and sign up for something. Go see that park that you wanted to see. Go say to your friend that you've been wanting to meet and go for a kayak with, like, hey, let's do it this weekend. And don't put off things that you've been wanting to do, because you never know what's going to happen. And seize the opportunity, because who knows what's going to happen. And do it while you can. Don't say no to the chance. So like that's what I hope people will do is, if they get nothing else from this, go have that adventure that you've been wanting to do. Or I mean, it doesn't even have to be something epic. You can just go 20 miles from your house, get dropped off, and try to get home. Like you can, it can just be something as simple as that. Like you don't have to go to Arcadia or Yosemite or Patagonia. Like have an adventure, and do it sooner rather than later.
Oh, that explains it. My wife has done that to me a couple of times. She's dropped me off 20 miles from home and says, hey, we'll see you later. And yeah, that's what she was doing. She was trying to encourage my next adventure. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So there you have it. That's it. Season 2, episode 1 is in the books. I hope our listeners enjoyed our time with Michael, and I want to thank him for joining us this week. Michael, how can our listeners keep up with you on social media, and where can they find updates on your latest adventures?
Yeah, man. The best place to reach me is I'm on a lot of social media platforms, pretty regularly, like basically daily, on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. For Twitter and Instagram, I'm just at Mike Wardian, and that's MikeWard, like dog, IAN like Nancy. And then it's Michael Wardian on Facebook. So yeah, if you want to drop me a line or you have a question or something didn't make sense, just shoot me a DM or instant message, and I'd be happy to get back to everybody. And I'm also, I have a website. It's just Michael Wardian or Mike Wardian, I think, MikeWardian.com. But yeah, if you just put it into any search engine, you should be able to find me.
Fantastic. Thank you. He is very accessible. I DM'd him on Instagram. He got back to me. Here we are doing an episode. Fantastic.
Yeah, man. It was really fun, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Remember to check out the pod on social media as well. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you have comments or clips you want to share, you can send it to me at johnfreakinmuir@gmail.com. As we wrap things up today, I want to include a new feature we'll be doing on every episode. We're going to call this Adventure Media Recommendation. Michael, I'm looking to you to give our listeners your recommendation for a book, a movie, a documentary, a website, or a YouTube channel that will keep them connected to outdoor adventuring. What do you have for us?
Ooh. It's a shameless plug, but as you mentioned, I'm on the cover of Outside Magazine, so go check that one out. I'd say I really love Instagram. I think is a great resource for that. Just seeing what other people are doing. It's another shameless plug, but Spartan is going to be putting out a series. It's actually where I got injured was the Spartan Games. That's coming out, I think, on December 2nd. So yeah, if people want to check that out, and I think that's going to be on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere. I'd say for if they don't have, there's a oh man, what's the app? It's a really good app. Hold on, I just used it for the self-supported crossing of Shenandoah, and it was something that I hadn't heard of before. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Man, what was? Oh, it's not Kahoot. Oh, it's Gut Hook. Have you ever heard of this one? I'm sure your listeners probably have, but it's an app called Gut Hook, GUTHOOK, and it's probably one of the best mapping features I've seen out there. And you can download the map where you are, and it'll show you like where water sources are. It shows you like where you are. It works offline, so it doesn't kill your battery. So that's probably one of the best apps I've seen lately. And then, I'm on Strava too. So if people want to follow me there, but I feel like that's a really good app to keep you motivated and really get you out the door.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. That's some good information right there.
And then you said other weird random hobbies. If any of your people want to play me in chess, I'm super into chess, not even because of Queen's Gambit, but one of my goals in life is to become a grandmaster. It's been something I've been working towards. I started playing in tournaments for the first time about a year ago. So one of those things seize the day. You keep talking about it. Why don't you just actually end up doing it? So I'm still getting my butt kicked by 8-year-olds dressed in night costumes, but I love it. And I'm on chess.com and Lee Chess at Michael Wardian. So MICHAELWARDIAN. So if anyone wants to play me, I'm down to get a match on.
Mike, you are a true Renaissance man.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't play an instrument yet, but I did take up juggling about a week ago. So I'm still not at a flash yet, but I'm getting closer.
All right. Well, that is a wrap from the John Freakin' Muir studio. Any final thoughts, Michael?
Yeah, man, just stay safe and go get that adventure, man. Have fun out there.
Fantastic. Thank you for tuning in. Always remember, the trail is the trail. It doesn't care if you want to go downhill. It doesn't care if it's almost dark and you're looking for a campsite. It doesn't care if you're on loop 1 of the Barkleys and you're sitting in a cave trying to avoid hypothermia. The trail is the trail. Embrace the suck.